Middle of the Pack podcast.
Oh, it's not my job, and I always even, some of the higher level runners, they're nearly sub-elite, some of the people, they are. And I always have to remind myself, you're hanging around with the sub-elites drinking coffee. You're just doing your own thing.
And that's our guest for this week. That's Sinead Power talking a little bit about her life as a runner. This week, as I said, we have Sinead joining us. She is a remarkable person. She is a remarkable runner. She's going to tell us all about how she copes with being a back of the pack runner, really. Also how she copes with being a nurse and how she is balancing the act between having a sociable life within the running community, having a job that really needs to have a sense of compassion and a sense of care. And I think that reflects her personality throughout any encounter I've had with her and any encounter I'm sure most of the running community have had with her. So we'll take up the conversation where I've asked her what is her job, and we'll take it from there. This is Sinead Power on the Middle of the Pack podcast.
I work as a nurse. I'm an oncology palliative care nurse. So I work in the cancer information services currently. So I have a non-clinical role, more so information and support for patients and family members. So I suppose you get to that point in your life as a nurse where you can't really do shift work anymore. Yeah. I know you had Laura on and she's an emergency nurse and I admire her hugely, but I suppose it comes to a point in some of our lives where we just can't do night duty and stuff anymore. So, for me, I have a Monday to Friday job now, which lends itself better, I suppose, to running and all the social things that go with running.
And the social things are really important, though, aren't they?
They absolutely are. I mean, you know it, Padraig, you've joined Eagle and, I'm an Eagle member as well, and they're an extremely welcoming and sociable club.
Yeah.
And I think the parkrun community as well is a great community. Yeah, my background was in palliative care nursing and oncology, so I would have worked in hospice care and that. So that's really where my real passion is, I suppose, for my work. And sometimes I miss the clinical role. But yeah, currently it's information and support. So it's patients and families. So, you're often one of the first people they meet when they're diagnosed, and you're just kind of talking them through really what's going to happen. And, I work for the Irish Cancer Society. So we're a support service within the hospital for people. Yeah, we have a running club as well in the CUH. So that's another
layer. So how did you...
we tend not to run when we're at work and our breaks or anything, but we do tend to do a lot of the BHAAs and all levels of runners as well. There's some fantastic runners and then there's other runners and then there's like myself, back at the pack runners. So
And how did you start running?
So I started running in 2016. There's a lady called Amanda Cooney. A lot of people in Cork would know her. She's Middleton AC. She would have been our social worker in the hospice. So she suggested that we start some Couch to 5K. So we did. A couple of us joined her and we used to head out kind of on a Wednesday evening with Amanda, and we'd go out to the farm, and, the farm is in Cork for anybody outside of Cork, but it's kind of grass and that. So we started doing our Couch to 5K, but then I had the app and I kept going with my app, on my days off and kind of worked it in. I was on shift work at the time. So our first 5K was the Cheetah Run, which ironically is an Eagle AC race. So I remember that very well. And, when I look back at pictures, I just did what I do comment on is that we were all wearing so much clothes, and that can be really warm. It's kind of April, May time.
Yeah.
I was only talking to somebody about it lately that, when you start running, you're very self-conscious of your body and that and what you look like and that. And, I do remember being extremely warm running around the course because, I had a pair of leggings, I had a layer under me, and then I had a kind of a rain jacket, and I think I had a hat. Like when I look at the pictures, I just say, oh my God, how didn't I get a heart? But I think that's when you start running as well. You're very conscious,
Yeah.
of yourself. And as somebody said to me one day, nobody really cares, everybody's focusing on their own race and their own running. So yeah, so then the pandemic came in 2020. And like I had been doing my little 5Ks and that between 16 and 2020. But then the pandemic came, so obviously the whole world was affected by that. So we were all obviously, all on our own. We were running on our own. We were very conscious of maybe breathing on if we met an elderly person on the path. I remember nearly getting knocked down one day trying to avoid her because I could see she was terrified of me.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that. So then I was on Facebook one night when they started easing some of the restrictions and you could meet 15 people, we'll say, in some of the phases of the lockdowns. And there was a post up, I think it was in the Running in Cork page. It was Ed Fitzgerald, another stalwart of running in Cork. He's another Eagle member. But he had a post up. I didn't know him. I didn't know any of the people replying to the post, that 15 of us could meet and run down the old railway line in Cork, down near Blackrock. And we could do varying distance, 10K, like we do on the weekend runs, 10K, 5K, 10 miles, half marathon. So 15 of us signed up and all he wanted was a thumbs up. So 15 thumbs came into the messages to him. So we started doing those runs when we could. And, you know yourself with the lockdown, it was a real novelty then to kind of, we'd all be outside. And I remember we had apple tart and coffee one morning and we were so happy to be kind of with people running in that. And it was, we owe him a lot. I remember he said afterwards, then it was a social experiment he did. Like it was funny because not many of us knew each other, but we all kind of came together through the love of running and the love of trying to get out and just, as you say, the social side. It's very important to make that link socially, through the running. You have to adapt your run maybe a little bit sometimes when you're a bit slower. And because I think that's a really important part of running.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things one of the reasons why we joined the club is that we knew a few people that were suggesting Eagles. And I mean, as you know, it doesn't have to be Eagles. The fact that you're joining a running club, or like Karen was talking about, a group where people just meet up at Cortado Coffee or down in the marina. And it just makes everything so much better, doesn't it? When you have that treat at the end, we run to eat cakes kind of thing.
Absolutely. It does. Yeah. And it's the chats you have, and it's even all the expertise that's in the group. In any running group or any running club, there's all levels of expertise and advice, and and sometimes you're sitting having coffee with someone you don't even know what they work at. It's just the bond that kind of comes from the running. Yeah. It's really lovely. And you talk about shoes, or you talk about different things, or maybe your training has gone belly up, so what could you do to recover that or whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't go for my run and not have my coffee. Now with the marathon training, obviously I had 220 miles to do, so I had to kind of go away and do those myself, because they take me 6 hours plus. And I know some people will say maybe you shouldn't be out for that length of time, but the way I see it is I'm going to be out for a long time in the marathon, and I have been. And, I've done 4 marathons to date, and like for my confidence, I need to be out there. So,
and how do you fuel yourself then on your training runs for that length of time?
Yeah. Recently, what I started taking is drink mix. I started bringing the little bottles with me because, yourself, the gels, when you're taking a lot of gels. And I know last year in Dublin, they were laughing at me. They were saying, how many gels did you bring? And I'd say, like, for a 7-hour marathon, I swear I had about 15 gels with me. I didn't take them all. But the way, for a slower runner, you miss the gel stations, you miss the Lucozade sports stations, so you do have to really cater for yourself. And I know most runners do cater for themselves, because it's hard to guarantee that somebody will be there with a bottle of something, or, if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I suppose, yeah, the drink mix, I'm finding that really good. I just put it's mango flavored. It's actually a really nice flavor. And I heard Laura talking about the Rice Krispie bars. They're quite easy to digest as well, I find. But I suppose I'm kind of lucky in that gels don't make me sick. I'm pretty tolerant to gels.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's you your doubt sometimes about it, the whole thing. You do. You just.
But I remember meeting you at Parkrun
Mm,
around the time we both finished the Cork Marathon, and
mm,
we had our photo taken, if you
we
remember.
did. We did.
But you were telling me then I think I was volunteering another week, and you were telling me about the fact that you were able to encourage someone to run the marathon because they were worried about times. But when you were able to talk to them about your times,
Yeah.
it encouraged them, and I thought that was a good.
Yeah, there is someone, but
That's all right.
he has opt in the 10K when it goes along by Merchants Quay in Cork. He does the 10K, but he runs. It's kind of a traditional thing now. The last two marathons, he hops out at Merchants Quay and he comes a little bit of the route with me. And he said to me, I'm going to go with you next year. Because I said to him this year when he left me at kind of Patrick's Bridge, because he was going doing the 10K, I said, you come with me now. I said, next year, I said. And, I've spoken to him since, and he is going to come with me, he said, all going well.
For Cork Marathon.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. There'll be a bit of walking, there'll be a bit of running, there'll be a bit of jogging, like it'll be. But, I'm not claiming to be anything else, I'm not, and I remember Amanda Cooney said that when I started running, that lady from Middleton AC, she said, never apologize for yourself, never. And I know you can pee off maybe race organisers sometimes, which is why I didn't do the Charleville half this year, because there was quite a tight time cut off on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm very conscious of that. I don't want to pee off people either, when you're a slower runner. But it's so I'm selective about the races I pick. I
And do
did go to
most
the man.
races and
Yeah.
do most races talk about cut-off times so you know if you're applying that, if it's good?
They do, yeah, they do. And like technically they might have a cut-off point, but I suppose that's the beauty of us being in a club as well. We can run it by somebody in the club and they'll say, yeah, don't touch that. Or some others will say, yeah, you'll be fine, just top up in the footpath and you'll be okay. So, you talk to people who are in the know about it. I suppose I did go to Charleville and watch, and I just realised afterwards it's an effort for everybody. Saw the really fast runners coming in, and they had the effort on their faces as well. The same as, there's a different effort for me, obviously, but it's not easy for anybody running. So, I admire anybody who is obviously really admire the people who can do it really fast, but for everybody, there's a huge effort involved.
Absolutely. But I think that's been the really encouraging thing for me. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to do the podcast, because I think and it is wonderful, as you say, that people are able to do 5Ks in 19, 18, 17 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's a huge pocket of people that are either stuck in the middle or stuck in the back. And I put up a post today about kind of average time for age groups. And you'd be surprised, people think it's 22 minutes or 24 minutes, but it's not. It's in the 30s. And
Exactly. And I
and
did see your post, yeah.
and I think running is for everybody, and you don't have to have done a marathon to be a runner. You don't have to do certain times to be a runner. If you could put on a pair of shoes, and maybe leggings and a hat might be a bit too much, like you did in photo, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're definitely a runner. So what kind of running shoes do you wear then? Because
Yeah, I'm a stability shoe.
yeah,
So I bought some shoes online, but I'm a firm believer in going to a running store. A running
yeah,
spot, recognized. I'm a firm believer in going to a running shop. I personally would go to John Buckley's a lot. So I started in Brooks, but now I'm in Saucony Guide 18. I have 3 pairs of those.
okay.
And I did Cork in I'm a big thing about colour. They laugh at me in John Buckley's, but I have a nice pink pair and I wore those for Cork. And I've had no problems. I know you wear plated shoe, don't you, Padraig?
I do. I
Or,
do.
yeah.
I think it's not always speed. There is definitely an assist with them, but
Mm,
there's also, as you say, there is a lot of people have to worry about stability, and I think I would think for more longer runs, if you're not going to wear a plated shoe, the shoe should be at least a little bit lighter rather than a heavy shoe. Because I know
yeah.
I do like Brooks, and I like them for
Mm,
like parkrun, or I'd like them for a
mm,
5K, maybe a 10K max. But
mm,
I'm talking about the glycerin, because I do wear my carbon plates are Brooks as well, but they're as light as a feather,
oh,
and
okay.
I would wear them now for long runs, and I wear them for races, and
Mm,
they give me a little percentage quick,
okay.
but it's not.
Yeah.
I'm still not going to be winning my age categories or anything like that, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just slow to change because I'm running since 2016. And I've never had touch wood. I've never had a serious injury. I've had aches and pains. I've had different things, but I've been touch wood. And look, I listened to Karen today. I know it could happen to any of us at any point,
Yeah,
but I'm very slow to change. I
but if
do
it
think,
works,
yeah,
if it's working, you don't change really. Um,
no.
and what would your favorite distance be then?
I suppose the half marathon is nice because you can kind of settle into a half marathon. A 5K is definitely I dread 5Ks. I'd say a half marathon. I am like, I know I said to you before, Padraig, we spoke about briefly about an ultra. Remember I told you, I said you could run for days.
Yeah, yeah.
I think at some point, maybe in my life, I would like, because somebody experienced in running was looking at my heart rate there at one point on my runs. And she did say to me, your heart rate stays really kind of low, because I'm very just the same. I know I
Steady.
should be putting a spurt on and that, but she reckons I could do an ultra because I just kind of, I don't, it's all the same most of the time. My heart rate,
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
zone 3 or zone 3 is aerobic. Yeah. Like I'm never really zone 4. Maybe zone 2 would be more my warm up. But I did notice on my 20-mile runs when I looked at my heart rate zones, they were zone 3. So
So
like an experienced, huh?
you're not necessarily pushing then.
No, and I hear you talk. Yeah, and maybe, maybe in time, yeah, I do. I probably need to push. But
No, but
then sometimes I'm saying, oh, it's not my job, and I always even, some of the higher level runners, they're nearly sub-elite, some of
yeah,
the
yeah,
people,
yeah.
they are. And I always have to remind myself, you're hanging around with the sub-elites drinking coffee. You're just doing your own thing. So, yeah, I'm probably not pushing, but I'm happy. I'm not injured. I'm not. And I looked at my marathon times there. After you invited me on, my best time, now best, when some people hear this, they'll say, my God, my best time was the Cork City Marathon in 2024. It was 6:06. And my worst time was last year. I was 7:45, 7:45. But my mum had died the previous August to
Yeah, yeah.
last. And I was debating, would I or would I not do the marathon? But I wanted to do it for Waterford Hospice. But, when I was out there, my calves started cramping and everything, and I was struggling big time. And I was asked at some points, they had the dropout zones. They said, are
Yeah.
you okay? Do you want to hop out? Or I said, no, all was in my head was that I told people I'd do this for Waterford Hospice. I just felt, people had given me money. And now I knew that if I dropped out the money, they're not going to say, give us back our money. You didn't finish it. But I just felt I wanted to do it for my mother. But that was my worst. Last year was terrible. It was awful. It was dark when I came in. It
But
was,
but I still remember meeting at the park run, and you were thrilled, and you had your medal, and you were carrying it, and that's the important thing.
yeah, I'm kind of known for my medal tours. I know some people are probably saying, Jesus, here comes your one again with her medal. But like, I think we earn those medals. I don't go around with my other medals, my half marathon medals. I don't. But like, I give him, as I call it, the tour for at least 4 weeks. So wherever I go, my medal happens to be with me. And we did get the Cork one off the mainland twice this year. It went to Bear Island and it went to Sherkin Island. So,
well done.
yeah. So, but then I put it away. I don't, it's gone then away. So it's, but I do think a marathon medal is something.
Yeah, it is.
Any medal is, but a marathon medal especially is something to be very proud of. So
absolutely. But I do I love, maybe I'm still relatively new to it all, maybe. I don't know, but I still love the t-shirts, and I still love getting a medal at the end of a race. And I know a load of people that I know, they'll go, "Oh, we'll do that one because you get a medal,"
yes.
and they'll
Oh,
pick a race.
medals are popular. Yeah. They are. And I think, I was only talking to one of my club mates there last weekend after the long run, and I was going mad because I couldn't find one of my Cork City Marathon t-shirts, and they're actually lovely t-shirts to run in as well. But it's because it's a marathon t-shirt as well. But I actually found it. It was away in a bag in the boot of my car. But it's just, yeah, you do, like, you train a lot. It takes a lot of your time. And yeah, hopefully if I get my medal this year, it will be coming out with me for about a month.
The Dublin one it was launched today, I think, wasn't it? I don't know
It
if you saw
was.
it.
Yeah, beautiful medal.
And have you done Dublin before?
Yeah, twice. Yeah.
So Cork twice and Dublin twice.
Yeah. Came out of the lottery in 2023 for Dublin, and that's where it all started. Just threw my name into the lottery and had been doing a lot of half marathons. And, well, we usually kind of do a club trip as well in April, May. So I'd done the Manchester half marathon and that, and lots of half marathons in Ireland. So, of course, I ran it by some of the gurus in the club, and they said, "Sure, you'd be well able, girl. Just, And there's one particular person, Elaine Gannan, you maybe know Elaine. She did our track sessions. She was fantastic. She still is fantastic to me. I'd often touch base with her. But for that particular marathon, she was really good. I'd touch base with her and I'd send her, the readings from, the heart rate and all the different bits. And she really gave me an encouragement. Yeah, really
And
good.
and with the last few weeks to go, are you feeling confident about Dublin?
I think I'm missing some of my middle of the week runs because I'm just a bit tired. Now, as I say, I'll kick into action now tomorrow evening before the yoga. I'll try and do a bit before the yoga, and I'll do a couple of runs, towards the end of the week. But I do have the 220 miles done. So they will give me confidence. And I know now some people will say you shouldn't be running for that long, but in reality, I'll be out for more than that time in Dublin. So I need to do it for myself.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to get the hours in the legs. You do.
Yeah.
But yeah, people shouldn't be telling you that, because that's, if you've done you've done 4 marathons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
I do. Yeah. You see, that's the thing as well. I do. And people say that to me, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah. So look, but I always say, all I want to do is arrive safely and arrive, God forbid, arrive alive, which is so important, and just enjoy it. And look, if I ever did have to pull out, touch wood, I've never had to pull out of a race, but I'd have no qualms. There's no shame. And I've seen very good athletes having to pull out of races. We've all
Yeah,
seen them.
and
And it,
and
it
and and we
teaches
know
you.
some that even when they've started, they've said, "This isn't right today. I'm not going to continue." And
Exactly. Exactly. So even I know last year now I was asked, did I want to go at the drop out point? And they were offering me tea and everything. I said, "Geez, look at your one." But my calves were cramping and stuff. But that was lack of fueling, and I know that now.
yeah,
I didn't get any of that in Cork this year. What was Cork this year? 7:13 this year. I know some people would say. Now, my dad had died in May then, just before Cork. So, I suppose that maybe, I suppose I did write a piece for the Eagle newsletter a year or two ago. Oh no, after the Dublin Marathon in 2024. about running through grief. And I think that's something important. I might send it to you, Padraig. It was just like grief is very underestimated. And I know that Karen was talking today, Karen Toomey, about stress in your life and stuff. Any kind of a stress can cause, obviously it'll affect your performance and it'll affect your ability. So I suppose maybe in hindsight, some might say, God, you shouldn't have done that marathon, after all of that. But my parents were both sports people, so they would have wanted me to do it. And my mother was a bit of a runner in her time.
Yeah.
So, but I do think running with any kind of a life stressor, you have to be, and we do have to remember it's not our job, and sometimes it can feel like a job.
Yeah. I know you've said that a few times. I think that's a nice statement. Like, you're almost saying it's not the end of the world. It's not our livelihood doesn't depend on it. Like,
no, and we have to remember, that, we did this to keep ourselves well and to de-stress from life, not to cause us more stress. And I did have that conversation with someone lately who had kind of lost their mojo for running.
Yeah.
And they were having that conversation with me, and I was saying, well, you need to look at that because that's not why you started running. They said the fun had gone out of it. And, sometimes the training can do that to you.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, I needed to go up to parkrun last Saturday. I probably could have done more miles if I'd have stayed down in my own area and done, but I just said, no, I'm fecking lonely now for my running friends. I'm going up to the parkrun. I'm going to, because, there's a lot of chat at parkrun, so there's probably an hour gone that you could be running.
Yeah.
But, I kind of said, right, I did 220 miles, so look, I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of on track. And I was I never come back from the park run saying, oh God, I shouldn't have gone up there. I'm usually driving back and I'm saying, God, that was so funny, or that was so, or I'm so glad I met this person or that person, or.
And that is the really important thing about it all. Yeah. So I think I think the sense of community is important to us all. And that's a nice place to finish up.
Yeah.
As I said, you are an inspiration, and I think it's really good of you to come on. And thanks very much for giving me your time and everyone else. So thank you very much, Sinead.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me, and I hope I haven't confused people now with the title of your podcast.
Well, we'll come up with something. Thanks very much.
Sometime. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
now.
Padraig. Bye.
And that's Sinead Power. What a great episode that was. And I really appreciate her coming on. And just for information, the Middle of the Pack podcast isn't all about middle of the pack runners. It's about ordinary people, normal people, just going about their daily lives and being part of the running community. So it's not always about time. It's about just not being an elite, which Sinead mentioned a couple of times. So that's a great episode. You can follow us on all the social media channels. Like and subscribe to this podcast. But most of all, it's really a pleasure that you are joining me. And please join in every Wednesday when the podcast is launched. But for this week... Thanks for listening.